about that, about the Nobel Prize. The highest honor by far in physics still is to go to Europe and have a king give you a piece of gold.
Yes.
That is the highest honor. Like, what the?
No,
What? No. We're
that is
serious
such a
people. We live in a modern world. What? You go to Europe to get a piece of gold from a king.
no. That's
that's
literally a
honor.
magical ceremony. It
Yes.
really is. It's literally a magical
and stuff.
ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all
you know
like
what?
that, and we're all connected to that. Yeah.
That's so funny. And you know what? We think of the Nobel Prize, like, I mean, so true. I didn't mean to cut you off. That just like hit me like a ton of bricks. The idea that the Nobel Peace Prize and the whole ceremony is that's nothing but a big magical ceremony.
It's a chunk of gold. Like because gold is the way that people are, like money is so obviously this kind of magic spell that is cast over people. And originally it used to be gold, and it still has that people talk about the Nobel Prize, and the fact that there's this block of gold, people act like it's no big deal. But the way people talk about it, it's still, they still have that reverence for the block of gold. And there's like this famous story about when the Nazis were coming into some lab in, I don't know where, one of these Northern European countries. The Nazis were going to come and they had no time. And so one of these Nobel laureates took his Nobel Prize and dropped it in a beaker of acid, and it dissolved. And then the Nazis preserved the lab. They escaped, came back after the war. All of their chemistry shit was still set up in the lab. And then they recondensed the gold out of the solution and got it made back into a Nobel Prize. And like the fact that I know that story is part of this thing where, like, why did somebody tell me that story? Because it's passed down. These stories get passed down, and that mythology is part of, like, to have patriarchy, you don't just have like the guy who begat the guy who begat the guy who begat. You have to have these stories.
And Gad begat Jehoshaphat, who begat Rehoboam, who begat...
for 600 years.
For 600 years.
And you know, in order to make people actually believe in the mythology, you have to have mythology. You can't just have names. There have to be these wacky little anecdotes. And so, you know, what we do as wizards and as witches is we try to break the cycle, but I think it's important to recognize that we build our own family at some level. Like you talk with your stuff about chosen family, and I think that applies to philosophers and magicians and witches and wizards and everything as well, is that you have your not so chosen family where you just applied to college and then you applied to grad school and then you end up in some lab and now they say, well, this is who you may not like it, but gosh darn it, this is your family. And you gotta, you know, the equivalent of Thanksgiving dinner is going to these conferences where you all sit around and everybody yells at each other about whatever stupid quantum thing or something like that. But your chosen philosophy family is the people you actually want to exchange knowledge with about philosophy, which you have to choose to try to do that outside of the systems of control that we're hoping to maybe undermine a bit here.
Undermine more than a bit. Absolutely.
Totally
there's
overthrow.
There's so much that you said is that's so we got ancestor worship, we got also just to put a fine point on one part of it, money is absolutely magic. It's like it's literally just like
nonsense.
It's and it is a consensual hallucination that we move through together. Right. And like we and what, like, it's one of the reasons that I push not for nothing, you know, one of the ways that I push against these things is in non-direct ways. I don't call it magic. I don't call it spells. I don't call it marshaling a magical army. But when I try to get people to boycott stuff, I'm like, push back against the idea that these corporations are the place that you should be submitting to, because I think that's part of the brands, I think, are part of the ancestor worship.
Yes.
Like, you know, when people think about, like, you know, old trusted brands, you know, like, oh, well, Coca-Cola and Motorola, like all these, you know, these names have some sort of like magical purpose, I think. And also thinking about things like awards, there is simply nothing more of the Oscars, the Tonys, the whole EGOT, throw it out. Like that's it. Again, this is the baleful magic of the overculture and of these systems, and they use the trappings of art to capture the art and to limit what we think of as the pinnacle of art. It's the same thing as with the Nobel Prize. The person who receives the Nobel Prize isn't necessarily the most intelligent, the most virtuous, it's all political, and it's about who the king is going to give the piece of gold to, and that is like all and that's all part of the magic. That's all part of the magic that they're working on us. And like even people who know better, right? Artists still wish they could get a Tony, you know. Scientists who want to see the I mean, it is life-changing, but it's also it's life-changing, but that's also part of the magic. Right? Tying us into stuff to make it like that it would actually help our lives, that it's not just, and that's the thing about magic for me, is that it's never the mystical and the practical. It's always both. At every stage and at every step, it's always both. The best art is science, and the best science is art. And that to me is like the essence of what magic is and why magic is very, very real, and why the magical war needs to be thought of as a very real thing.
Right.